The iPhone 14 Pro is Apple's top flagship phone for 2022 and much of 2023, sitting above the more modest iPhone 14. For the first time, recommending the iPhone 14 Pro over the cheaper iPhone 14 seems obvious. This is where the true innovation from Apple is this generation. At least it feels like the start of an innovation cycle. The iPhone 14 Pro features a number of upgrades and changes that will likely become series stalwarts over the next few years, and I can see many of them being copied by rivals. After a fairly slow year for high-end phones in general, with many of the best Android phones only receiving minor updates over their predecessors, the iPhone 14 Pro has the potential to offer something truly new. But does it succeed? Screen and design Dynamic Island is a smart, if underutilized, alteration to the notch. Excellent bright display squared-off design is more comfortable in the smaller size. Place the iPhone 14 Pro next to the 13 Pro, and there's one immediately obvious difference: the notch. While it remains, it's no longer attached to the top bezel, instead allowing the display to wrap around. In typical Apple fashion, it has named this notch the Dynamic Island. I am sure we can all agree it's a silly name, but in actual use it's a big improvement. Apple has managed to take one of my biggest issues with the previous model and made it a selling point of the iPhone 14 Pro. The Dynamic Island comprises the elements of the true depth camera system required for the very quick and equally reliable Face ID unlocking system, and a new software layer that makes it seem like certain UI elements are appearing out of the notch. Start a song playing in Spotify and head back to the home screen, and that song will jump to the Dynamic Island, becoming always visible whatever app you're in. Start a timer now, and the Dynamic Island will split in two, allowing you to easily keep an eye on what music is playing in the background and how long is left on the timer. You'll get a pop-up in the Dynamic Island when you connect AirPods or when your battery is low, notifications that before never really had a proper place to go. The Dynamic Island also works with the Live Activities API to allow apps to use it and show information. Deliveroo, for example, could show you the location of your dinner without you needing to open the app, or a sports app could allow the score of a match to be always visible. Though nearly 6 months after release, most apps are yet to make use of it. I am a big fan of the way the Dynamic Island works and the idea behind it, and it adds an extra interaction layer to the phone. You won't interact with it a lot, at least not until more apps can take advantage of it, but tricks like being able to quickly change the song are helpful. It does still feel a little undercooked though, as we won't see its true benefits for a while yet. I find it odd that tapping on the Dynamic Island takes you back to an app, whereas a long press brings up quick controls. For me, the other way around makes more sense. There are also times when the standard notification system and the Dynamic Island system overlap, making me wonder why they weren't combined together. Elsewhere, the iPhone 14 Pro retains the visual style of the iPhone 13 Pro, and aside from being able to go brighter in certain instances, the screen is the same too. It's a very flat phone with shiny stainless steel sides that smudge easily and a frosted glass back. It's still IP68 rated for protection against water and dust, and there's a ceramic shield coating for added drop protection. I do wish the screen was a little more resistant to scratches though, as they seem to appear with increasing frequency. The Pro I am reviewing is the smaller of the two available, with its 6.1-inch display. There's also the iPhone 14 Pro Max, which ups the ante to 6.7 inches. It's great that Apple remains the only brand out there packing top-end tech into a phone that can be grasped comfortably in my hand. It is a heavy phone though, and at 206G, the iPhone 14 Pro weighs 38G more than the Galaxy S23 with the same screen size. The smaller phone suits the boxy industrial design a lot more than the bigger model. With the Pro Max, I often found it digging into my palms if I'm using it without a case. But that's not an issue with the Pro. I'd still recommend the Pro Max if you watch a lot of videos or play a lot of games on your phone, as the extra real estate is very welcome in those tasks. I've loved the displays on Apple's phone since it switched to OLED panels, and once again it's fantastic here. The 6.1-inch panel is sharp and gets seriously bright. No other phone I have reviewed is as usable in direct sunlight as the iPhone 14 Pro, and you'll notice those extra nits of brightness in HDR video too. Even though the screen is fairly small, I was still immersed in an episode of Andor playing in Dolby Vision HDR from Disney+. Colors popped, SB.